Good morning, Naps.
Good morning.
Let's try that one more time. Good morning, Naps.
Good morning.
That sounds a lot better. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Washington. It's good to see all of you here. What a great-looking group. Thank you. Let me add my personal thanks to all of you for all that you do, for your leadership, for your time and attention, your devotion, your loyalty to this family that we call the National Association of Postal Supervisors. This is, I believe, the 30th Legislative Training Seminar. Is that right, Jay? Going back to 1983. And some of you have been here nearly that entire time. Perhaps not all of you. I know that Stanley Gold, who very much from the state of Florida, who's been here 25 times, regretted that he would not be able to be here this year. He asked me to send all of you his best. He's in New Zealand at this very moment, having the time of his life. But I'd like to take a moment to ask each of you to stand at the appropriate time and be acknowledged for your past record in attending the Legislative Training Seminar. And I want to begin, first of all, with the great group of first-timers with whom we met yesterday, a dedicated, active, energetic group of about 50 first-timers. All of you who are here for the first time for our legislative conference, would you please stand and be recognized? Welcome. We're glad you're here. New blood into the system and the process. And now, for those of you who have been to the LTS at least 5 times, please stand to be recognized. Okay, those who have been here at least 10 times in years past, please stand to be recognized. How about those of you who have been to the LTS, not necessarily in consecutive years, but over the course of your career as a supervisor, who've been here 15 times? Please stand to be recognized. Okay, is anybody who's been here at least 20 times? Whoa! And let's try to reach Stanley Gold's mark. Any of you who've been here 25 years to the LTS? Wonderful. Great. And how about going back to the beginning? How about those of you who've been here 30 times? What a tremendous record of dedication. Now, I would also like to take a moment to particularly thank and to acknowledge those of you who serve as the legislative branch representative for your branch. Who among you serve as your legislative branch representative? Can you please stand? And we'd like to. Thank you. And those of you who serve in the role of state legislative chair, please stand and be recognized. Excellent. Thank you for for all that you do, for your branches, for your states. I know how much time you've devoted in preparing to come here, taking time out of your schedule, at work and at home, being away from your families, to come to Washington to what some of us like to say, to really do God's work. And there is a profound importance in why you are here, in the necessity of why you're here. I want to spend about 20 minutes with you before bringing on our first keynote speaker, Inspector General David Williams, who we're pleased to have with us this morning. And during that 20 minutes, I'd like to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to cover today. Also would like to spend a little bit of time talking about the landscape here in Washington, the situation that we find ourselves in here, that you're going to find when you step foot on Capitol Hill tomorrow, and a little bit about the survey that we conducted. If you could bring on the first slide. Last year, you will recall, this stamp was issued by the Postal Service. The Cherry Blossom stamp, it's actually 2 stamps. I threw it up on the screen last year, never appreciating the fact that it would become as well received by the American public as it has. One of the most popular stamps ever issued by the Postal Service. And it is a beauty. It depicts the beautiful cherry blossoms that have waited for your arrival.
Yes.
They have stayed in an incubative stage for weeks, enduring cold weather. And now, the warmth, the spring, but more important, the members and delegates of NAPS have arrived, and they're out in their true beauty. It just so happens, and it's more than just so happens, it's fate, that their blossom time coincides exactly with the dates of our legislative conference. And the stamp, as you know, depicts on the left side a scene from 1913 when I'm sorry, not 1913, from 1953, I believe it is, when the cherry blossoms trees were well, I'm going to go back. It goes back to 1913 when the first trees were originally planted, then replanted following World War II when peaceful relations renewed with Japan, an original gift from the Japanese people. And then on the right-hand side, a representation of a young couple today actually taking iPhone photos of each other amidst the blossoms. Now, let me tell you, since these introductions that we have are very short, the fellow that we have that's doing the introductions off stage is very shy and keeps his words to a minimum. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. Many of you and I have become friends over the course of the 15 years that I've had the opportunity to serve you as legislative counsel to the organization. And I've treasured every moment of that relationship, have had the opportunity to go across this wonderful country of ours to meet with some of your states and look forward fondly to your arrival each spring for our LTS. I'm a second-generation public servant. I say that in the sense that my father was a public official in the education system in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. In fact, I think I have a photo here of, well, there we are. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you can pick me out here. This is in 5th grade. And I wanted to show this because I showed a picture of me a couple years ago that Jay has still not let me forget, wearing white shoes. And by the time I got to 5th grade, I had moved on, Jay, to black shoes. I'm the second on the left in the front row there. And interestingly, between the two safety patrol guards, I knew exactly where to stand, who was going to take care of me. Now, those of you who know, I'm a lawyer and a lobbyist here. I have several clients. Postal supervisors are one of them. Another group that I happen to represent are federal prosecutors. So even going back to the 5th grade, I stood with the law enforcement officers at our elementary school. I went on to college, Juniata College in central Pennsylvania. Any of you who have sons or daughters or grandchildren or neighbors that have kids that are looking to go to a wonderful liberal arts college, picked as one of those schools that change lives in a book by that same title, Think of Juniata, came to Washington, went to law school at George Washington, and then entered into life as a lawyer, working for the federal government for about 10 years, and then for an association of federal managers for about another 8 years. I worked for a time at the International Trade Commission, at HUD, at the Merit Systems Protection Board, and then went on to the Federal Managers Association. The reason I underscore that is that I have a real passion for what you do and the importance of public service, and believe strongly in the value of what you do, and in my inner core identify with your struggle. My uncle, Eddie, was a postmaster in Topton, Pennsylvania, and imbued in me an interest in stamps from the youngest age, and never did I ever think when I was a kid that I would have the fortune of being able to meet and work with you that time since then. Now, on a more humorous note, I want to clear up some confusion that has arisen. My brother, Brian, is an only child. This video that went viral last fall of a Gangnam Style kind of approach, that's my brother Brian. Some of you have asked me about that. That's not me. It was recorded during a celebration at Thanksgiving on our family's turkey farm. That's Brian. That's not me. Now, getting back to you. Thank you, those of you who participated in the survey that we conducted earlier this last month for 10 days, just as we did last year. We had about 1,550 folks participate in the survey, looking at at the attitudes of our members about what's going on in the Postal Service. And your feelings and reflections echoed the results of what we had discerned the year prior. In fact, in some respects, they even became more dramatic than the year before. I just want to touch upon very briefly your sentiments. And by the way, we filtered out there were about 300 LTS delegates who took the survey, and we filtered those out. Your sentiments jived with where things are. A high level of dissatisfaction, 85% dissatisfaction with the current situation facing the Postal Service. No surprise. Significant worry about your future and where the Postal Service is going. High levels of concern. Once again, not a lot of surprise there as well. And most pronounced, and even more magnified this year, was dissatisfaction with Congress and with top leadership in the Postal Service, but particularly with the Congress. Here's a chart I know it's a little difficult to read, but the question was, the Postal Service faces significant problems internally and externally. Of the following choices, which is the greatest problem facing the Postal Service today? And there were choices of Congress either interfering too much or not acting at all, failure of top leadership, bad operational policies and practices, too powerful craft unions, financial instability, diversion of mail to the internet, and insufficient attention to customer service. 1/2 of all of you cited as the top problem facing the Postal Service, that being Congress. Either interfering too much or not being engaged at all. And if there's any reason why you should be here, it's your answer to that question. Half of you indicating that was the foremost challenge facing the Postal Service today. And is there any wonder? Take a look at the productivity of the Congress over the last 3 Congresses. Now keep in mind that a Congress lasts 2 years. There is a first session and a second session of each Congress. They coincide with the terms of members of the House of Representatives. So that we're talking about over the last 6 years, going back to 2006 to 2007, in that time period, as many as 460 bills that the Congress passed and the President signed. The following Congress, 383 bills. And then finally, in the last Congress from 2010 to 2012, only 219 bills passed. And keep in mind, those include post office naming bills, which represent a significant number of that 219. So low productivity, certainly. And then secondly, the whole notion of divided government. Here's a cartoon that represents the Republicans and the Democrats trying to drive the national car, each driving in opposite directions, and where are they driving to? All that we know is that they're driving off the cliff. Not a pretty picture, but it represents the fact that in the House we have Republican leadership and a majority. In the Senate we have, and in the White House as well, we have the Democrat majority. Now, our founding fathers set up a constitution that governs how this democracy, how this republic we have works, and they purposely created tension between the branches of the government and a more deliberative process in the Senate so that slowness of time would help to yield better results. So let's keep in mind that that tension is a part of how our founding fathers expected things to work. But at the same time, the kind of gridlock that we encounter today in Washington is certainly not what the founding fathers ultimately intended. We had an election last November, and here are the newly elected members of the House of Representatives. 84 freshmen were elected. A more diverse set of lawmakers, more women and people of color than ever before. 84 of them, 78 I believe, here in Washington for the very first time. Some having previously served, then were out of office and then have returned. Over in the Senate, 12 new members of the United States Senate. If you do the math, it comes out to somewhere between 15 to 20% of each body then, or 12 to 20%, that are new to the body. And what does that mean for us? It means these are new folks that you, if you are meeting with them, need to take very seriously your role to educate them about the Postal Service, they and their staff. And that's why we particularly have within your folders that sheet that contains 5 things to know about the Postal Service. Don't assume that a newly elected member knows, for example, that no taxpayer dollars are used to finance the Postal Service. So during your visit, you might spend a moment or two just reinforcing with them 1 or 2 of those points. They can read the rest of the material after you leave, or perhaps even better, have already reviewed it before you arrived. But your role, once again, as Jay indicated earlier, one of the 3 things that are very important to your purpose being in Washington is to educate the Congress. And these freshman members will certainly appreciate that opportunity. One change as well has been the increasing polarization within the Congress. By polarization, I'm referring to the fact that the liberals have become more liberal, the conservatives have become more conservative, leaving the moderates in the middle a vanishing breed. And anyone know who this is or what this is? A blue dog, exactly. A label applied to Democrats who have been more conservative in their leanings. Very few blue dogs yet remaining in the Congress. Our theme this year is not accidental. Connect with Congress is aimed at, first of all, certainly educating, informing, urging, asking, imploring, motivating Congress to pass postal reform. But secondly, our connections that we forge here are devoted towards building, renewing, and unifying the family of NAPs as well. I hope all of you will have left here by Tuesday evening or Wednesday with having made new friends, new acquaintances while you're here. So those connections are important, not only socially, but also to assure that you learn from one another in recognizing the great organization that NAPS is. I want to spend a moment talking about showing you a quick video and then talking a little bit about our lineup for the day today. I've shown this video in the past and it's been so well received that I wanted to share it with you again. This is a fellow named Uncle Jay, and he explains things incredibly well with a lot of humor. This video was made in 2007. It's very short, but right to the point. You folks are arriving just as members of Congress are arriving. Where? From back at home after having been away for 2.5 weeks for what is called the recess. What is the congressional recess? Well, let's turn to Uncle Jay and he'll help to educate us.
Happy birthday, America. Uncle Jay's on vacation. Maybe you are too. Maybe you got the weekend off before the 4th or the weekend after. But you know what? Congress has the entire week off. In fact, welcome to a special Uncle Jay episode all about the hardest working Congress in America, Congress. That's why Uncle Jay's news word for this week is recess. Recess is the word they use when Congress takes days off. Now, it's not like school recess. The Congress doesn't go out and play and goof off and pick on people who can't fight back. They do that when they're in session. No, congressional recess is officially called a district work period. It's when each congressperson goes back to their hometown to do a job to do the job for their constituents. There is a district work period for President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day. Each one of those days lasts for a week, by the way. And then there's a 2-week district work period in April. It's around spring break when everybody leaves town, so the Congress people have no choice but to follow their constituents to where they are and work. Now, all those work periods makes them so tired, boys and girls, that they need the whole month of August for just so they can recharge. Actually, that is also called a summer district work period. So actually, that must be the hardest work of all. But the whole rest of the year, they're in Washington, hard at work, Monday through Friday, doing actually just Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, because they need Mondays and Fridays to go back to their hometowns and work with their constituents. It's like having a home office, boys and girls, with all the savings of a home office, if you don't count the flying there and back, which they don't because your parents and Uncle Jay paid for that. And someday you will too. Oh, and let's not forget those exhausting fact-finding missions. Oh, they're grueling, the incredible amount of facts to be found in places like Hawaii, Cayman Islands. So when Congress actually does get some time off, they have earned it. Between Christmas and New Year's, they get to be with their families, and it's actually between Thanksgiving and New Year's when they get to be with their families. It's actually between late October and New Year's. Boys and girls, if you wonder why Congress needs so many days off, maybe it's because they need to rest up for the hard-working year ahead. Because, you know, with over 90% of them getting reelected, they're pretty sure to be stuck in this dead-end job for another term. Well, boys and girls, if you still haven't figured out the difference between work and recess, that could mean you'll be congressional material when you grow up, or especially if you don't. Uncle Jay will be back from his recess next week to explain the news. And until then, remember, a good kid is good news.
I thought you'd enjoy that. Members of Congress are returning from what's called the spring recess. So if they look a little better tanned or more well-rested, they've been away for 2.5 weeks. Perhaps, I know some of you, some of the folks of the New York delegation have met with members while they were back in the district. So please, I'm not derogating the office. They do important work, but at the same time, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule that Uncle Jay talked about back in 2007 when he made this video still remains today. Lastly, let me just cover for you the shape of what the program looks like for the remainder of the day. We have a great program in store for you, lots of information that we're going to cover, and some terrific speakers. We'll, in just a moment, be welcoming David Williams, the Inspector General of the Postal Service. We're really delighted David is with us this morning. His office does important work in a variety of ways, and he'll be sharing a briefing with us about that. Then following Mr. Williams, I'll be back to talk with you about postal reform, the core issue of our legislative agenda. Then we'll take a break at about 10:15 to about 10:30. I'll be back from 10:30 to 11 to talk about two other issues, deficit reduction and how it impacts your pocketbook, as well as the issue of MSPB appeal rights for EAS employees, our third issue of our agenda. Then at 11 o'clock, we'll welcome the Postmaster General, who will be with us for about 45 minutes. We'll take a break then at 11:45, go to lunch. At lunch, we'll welcome the chair of the Postal Regulatory Commission, Ruth Goldway, who has been with us in the past, and will be our luncheon speaker. Then we'll turn to the afternoon at 1:15, back in here, hearing from 4 lawmakers from the Hill. The first 2 will be by recorded, videotaped remarks from the 2 chairs of the House and the Senate Postal Oversight Committees. Those folks are in the Senate, Senator Tom Carper, and in the House, Congressman Darrell Issa. On video. And then From 1:30 to 2:30, we'll be hearing from 2 members of the House Oversight Committee. The full name is the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. That's the committee that oversees the Postal Service in the House, and we'll be hearing from the top Democrat, Congressman Elijah Cummings from Maryland, as well as Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who sits on the subcommittee that oversees the federal workforce and the Postal Service. So they'll be live and with us for an hour from 1:30 to 2:30. Then we'll devote some time to a little more detail and information for you about SPAC and how it operates. And we're pleased that Elliot Friedman will be providing that briefing to you. And then we'll turn to the core of the congressional visit and how some of the tips for success in making sure that your visit is successful across the Hill over the course of Tuesday and potentially Wednesday as well. We should be wrapping up then by 4:30, something like that, this afternoon. So that's the outline for the day. You can see that it's a full program requiring your attention. Appreciate very much your seriousness and the professionalism with which you approach your task. And now, speaking of professionalism and one of our finest public servants, David Williams, I'm going to step away and let our announcer introduce Mr. Williams. Thank you.